Ever scroll through social media and seen something that makes you do like a double take? Maybe a bunch of faces that look almost normal, but kind of off.
Yeah.
Like they're melting or stretching in weird ways.
Yeah.
And it's not just your phone acting up. You're actually experiencing the flashed face distortion effect. And that's what we're diving into today.
Cool.
How this bizarre illusion works, the challenges of studying something so subjective, and a new method researchers are using to measure it.
Right.
So imagine this. You're a scientist trying to study this thing called the flashed face distortion effect, or FFDE for short. You're flashing these faces rapidly. People are telling you, oh, I'm seeing some crazy distortions. But how do you measure how distorted something looks to someone else?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's inherently subjective, like trying to quantify how something tastes or feels to another person. We all have our own internal scales for these things.
Right, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is this face melting? But relying on people's personal ratings, well, that has some serious flaws.
Absolutely, yeah. This new research highlights that perfectly. They use this database of faces called the Karolinska Directed Emotional Faces, basically a standardized set of images scientists use to study emotions.
Okay, so like a scientist-approved face library to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. They found that even subtle things, like where the face was on the screen or how fast they flashed the pictures, could completely throw off those subjective ratings. And get this, this happened even when there was no distortion happening at all.
Wait, so you're telling me just the way they were showing the faces could make people think they were distorted even if they were perfectly normal?
Precisely. Yeah, it's like our brains are playing tricks on us, filling in the blanks and creating illusions even when there's nothing objectively there.
That's mind-blowing. So if relying on people to rate the weirdness is out, what do? How do you measure something so subjective in a more objective way?
That's where this new research gets really clever. Instead of relying on those subjective opinions, they created what you could call like objectively distorted faces.
Objectively distorted faces. Okay, now you've really piqued my curiosity. How do you even begin to create a scientifically messed up face?
Yeah, so think of it like those photo morphing apps that you see. They use different techniques to manipulate the images, like stretching features, squeezing them, even rotating them.
Oh, wow.
Imagine taking like a selfie and then using one of those apps to make your face super wide or squished up like you're squinting. Those are the kinds of objective distortions they used.
So they've got their baseline of weirdness, a whole spectrum of scientifically wonky faces. What do they do with them? Do they just start flashing these warped images at people and call it a day?
Not quite. They actually use two conditions in their study. One is the rapid flashing scenario, right, where the illusion happens. But they also have a control condition where the faces are shown one at a time, like a normal slideshow.
Okay, so one situation is designed to trigger the illusion, and the other is more like a baseline for how we normally see faces.
Yeah.
But how does that help them measure anything?
So here's the key. In both the illusion and control conditions, they mix in those objectively distorted faces with normal ones.
So sometimes people see a normal face flashing quickly, sometimes a distorted one flashing quickly, and then the same thing but with single images. I'm starting to see where this is going. By comparing how people react to the objectively distorted faces in both situations, they can isolate the effect of the illusion itself. It's like subtracting the background noise to get a clearer signal, right?
Exactly, yeah. And that's the beauty of their method. By comparing those reactions, they can measure how much the rapid flash in the illusion itself makes people more likely to say a face is distorted, even when it might not be as warped as some of those objectively distorted ones.
Oh, that's so clever. It's like they're using the distorted faces as a measuring stick to figure out just how strong the illusion is. But does it actually work? Does this new method hold up? So they've got this clever new method for measuring something we thought was like immeasurable, but does it actually hold up to the science? What did the researchers find?
Well, the results were actually really impressive. Not only did this more objective method replicate what we already knew about the flashed face distortion effect from those earlier subjective studies,
Okay.
but it did so with much more precision.
So it's confirming what we thought we knew, but giving us a much clearer picture. That's kind of like upgrading from an old blurry map to a high-resolution satellite image.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And with that clearer picture came some really fascinating discoveries. They found that the illusion, the distortion people perceive, it actually persists even when there are short pauses between the flashing faces.
Wait, really? I thought the whole point of the flash phase distortion effect was that the images had to be flashing super fast for our brains to go haywire.
Right, that's what most scientists thought. But this new research suggests that our brains kind of hold on to that distorted perception for a little bit, even when we have a moment to catch our breath, visually speaking.
Wow, so it's not just about our eyes being bombarded with images. It's about how our brains process those images over time, even when we think we're getting a break. That's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. This finding really challenges the prevailing assumptions in the field, and it opens up a whole new avenue of research into what's actually happening in the brain during these illusions.
So, by trying to measure something that seemed immeasurable, these researchers stumbled onto a whole new layer of the flashed face distortion effect. That's why I love these deep dives. You never know what you're going to find lurking beneath the surface.
It really speaks to the power of questioning assumptions and finding new ways to study things, even those that seem impossible to quantify.
Absolutely. We've learned that this illusion isn't just about rapid-fire images. It's about how our brains interpret visual information over time, even when we think we're seeing things clearly. It makes you wonder, how much of what we perceive as reality is just our brains filling in the gaps, creating illusions, even when we're looking at something as seemingly straightforward as a human face? If you want to experience the flash face distortion effect for yourself, and I highly recommend you do, just search for it online. There are tons of videos that demonstrate it. But be warned, it's a bit of a visual roller coaster. It might just change the way you look at faces forever.